Francisco for one day. I used to live in San Francisco before the pandemic hit. So my friend who lives up here in San Francisco was in LA for a few days, and at the spur of the moment I just said, hey, can I hitch a ride with you back to San Francisco? And she said yes. So here I am. You have no idea how my heart swelled as we were driving into the city. And then we encountered this. Yep, this is the city I love. My friend put me up in her club for the night. It was really nice. But the next morning, I headed over to my hotel. This is where I am staying tonight at the World Mark. I just dropped my luggage off there so I can go out and enjoy the day. And here is a little trivia for you. Across the street from the World Mark is this tattoo parlor. And this is where Robert Louis Stevenson used to live. Robert Louis Stevenson is an author, and he wrote stories like Treasure Island. And he lived right here at this building. Let's see. Yeah, you can see the plaque honoring him right there, and it's now a tattoo parlor. That's not all, there is more. Let's head up the street a little bit. So right up the street from the tattoo parlor and Robert Louis Stevenson's old apartment is Dashiell Hammett Way. Dashiell Hammett was a hard-boiled detective back in the, I think the 30s, something like that, very well known. So San Francisco has a lot of streets and alleys named after authors, and this is one of the only ones where that author actually lived on this street. And he lived in this apartment up here. This is also my old neighborhood. When I started my channel, I lived here in San Francisco, and I lived on Bush Street where all of this is located, just about 2 blocks in the other direction. I loved it here, and that is why I'm so excited to be back. But now, let's get started with breakfast. So I normally don't get a large breakfast. I'm here at Roxanne's, and I am going to get a large breakfast today because they have no food at Alcatraz. And I'm heading there at about 10. I want to be able to enjoy as much time without having to come back here because I'm hungry. Riding the cable car never gets old. So for all the years I lived here, the one thing that was on my bucket list to do, but that I just never got around to doing, was going to Alcatraz. So today, my one day as a tourist, that is what I'm gonna do. I got here about a half hour before departure time, which I thought was plenty of time, and they are already boarding, and look how many people there are. I'm glad I got here early. So I have made it here onto the boat. I am on the upper deck on the outside. I know it's going to be chilly, but I had to get a seat outside. I'm so excited. I have made it onto Alcatraz Island. As I said earlier, there is no food or drink here. If you bring your own, you have to eat it and drink it here on the dock. So I'm gonna get the last bit of my coffee before I head up and take a tour of the island. So this is a story I had you've never heard of before. In 1894, there were 19 Hopi Indian men who were imprisoned here at Alcatraz for the horrible offense of not wanting to be separated from their children and for not farming the way the U.S. government wanted them to. The government was trying to completely erase their culture. They were taking the children away from their families and sending them to white boarding schools so they would learn to be, let's put it more frankly, so they would be indoctrinated to our white culture. That is just shameful. I've climbed halfway up the hill and stopping here at the water tower to take in this amazing view. There's quite a bit of erosion of the concrete around here, probably from the salt air, but steps areas are closed because of erosion like this. Here's the entrance to the main prison. Not sure if I'm ready. This was the first stop for prisoners when they came here. These are the showers, so they were stripped naked. They took their showers and got cleaned up, and then they moved over to this area where they were given their uniforms called Alcatraz Blues, and then marched upstairs to the general population cells. So they give everyone some headsets and a mini recorder so you can take an audio tour of the prison. This corridor is called Broadway, and all new prisoners were taken down this corridor, and the other inmates would be jeering them, cheering them as they came through. And then over on the side is a typical cell with one bed, toilet, sink, pretty bare bones. This section is called the D block. This is where you were sent if you were unruly and didn't follow the rules. You were in the cell for 24 hours a day, allowed out for an hour once a week for a shower and exercise. And these were the largest cells, but they were also the coldest, the draftiest. These cells were solitary confinement. So if you went in one of these cells, although regulations said you had to leave the lights on, they wouldn't do it. So you were in the dark 24 hours. That's cool. This area behind me is the prison library. This was a privilege that you earned, the right to come here, and for inmates who really have nothing to live for, this became a lifeline. This cell block outside of the library had these lights, and this was the most desirable cell block because it faced San Francisco, and sometimes if the noise was really loud or the wind was blowing this way, they would actually get to hear the sounds of the city. And on New Year's Eve, they would always hear the party, and this is where the sun set, so they got to see a little bit. I mean, this part of the cell block was very brightly lit, so this is where you wanted to be if you were in prison, one of these cells. This large area is Alcatraz's dining hall. The inmates would meet here, and dining was 20 minutes. That's all they had. Get your food and eat in 20 minutes. This delightful area is the prison yard. There's a lot of tourists here today, so it doesn't take too much of an imagination to imagine it full of inmates. So the audio tour of the prison was outstanding. It was narrated by former prison guards and former prisoners, so you really got a first-hand experience of what it was like being there. The stories and the people brought the prison to life in a way that just looking at the cells and the artifacts wouldn't do. So it was excellent. Once we got back to land, I walked along the Embarcadero, reminiscing as I walked past places I had been to. Then I wandered through the historic Ferry building. I will never tire of this view. Or this one. I caught the historic F-line streetcar back to Powell Street, and then the cable car to Union Square. I had dinner at Sears Fine Food, another place with good food and lots of good memories. Well, that really hit the spot. And speaking of hitting things, I have hit a wall. Today was absolutely fantastic, my one day in San Francisco, and it was a blast. I hope this helps you find your adventure. Thank you for watching.